When the Tavari family installs a smart doorbell camera to feel safer in their new neighborhood, they don't expect it to become the center of a chilling mystery. What starts as a harmless notification soon spirals into a web of unexplainable events. A smiling stranger caught on camera who doesn't exist, secrets buried in the walls of their century-old home, and a child who begins speaking to someone only she can see. The line between the past and present blurs as the family uncovers the tragic story of someone who was never truly gone. And in the end, a single frame from the camera changes everything they believed about fear, family, and forgiveness. Before we jump into this incredible story, drop a comment, let us know where you're watching from. And if you enjoy this video, be sure to subscribe for more. It was on a quiet Tuesday afternoon when the first alert came through. Motion detected front door. Mila Tavari, sitting at her work desk, glanced at her phone. The thumbnail from the doorbell camera showed a man, mid-30s, shoulder-length black hair, wearing what looked like a wool coat despite the heat. He stood perfectly still, smiling gently at the camera. No one had rung the bell. No footsteps. No knock. Just that soft, haunting smile. Mila furrowed her brow. She tapped the thumbnail to watch the full clip, but as the footage played, a creeping chill swept over her. The man never moved. Not an inch. And then, just as suddenly as he appeared, he was gone. There was no sound of departure, no footsteps retreating down their gravel path, nothing. Confused, Mila texted her husband, Aaron, and asked if he'd seen anything outside before leaving for work. He hadn't. Mila's heart skipped a beat when she looked outside herself. There was no one. Nothing. But the strangest part, when she tried to show the clip to Aaron that night, it was missing. Not corrupted. Not deleted. Simply never there. They had moved into the house only a month ago. Nestled in the old district of Windmere Hollow, it was the kind of home realtors described as full of character. Built in 1907, the Tavari residence had ivy-covered walls, creaky floorboards, and enough attic space to host an entire second family. Mila and Aaron were drawn to its rustic charm and the fact that it sat on a peaceful, tree-lined street. Their daughter, Lyra, only 6, had fallen in love with the backyard's old swing and the way the house echoed when she sang. But from the very first night, strange things began to occur. A whisper of cold air in sealed rooms. Lights flickering without explanation. Lyra mentioning a tall friend who visited her at night. At first, Mila dismissed it all. New homes carried old quirks, and Lyra's imagination had always run wild. But the doorbell footage, that was real. That was recorded. Or so she thought. The next day, the same notification pinged. Motion detected front door. This time, Mila was ready. She tapped the live view instantly. No one was there. But as she watched, the camera shook slightly, as though something invisible had just brushed past it. Aaron tried to rationalize it. Maybe it's just a glitch. These smart cams sometimes buffer weird, especially with older wiring. He even went out to test it, waving in front of the camera, stepping in and out. Everything recorded perfectly. No disappearing acts. No ghosts. Still, Mila couldn't shake the feeling. That night, as the house settled into silence, she heard the doorbell chime. One soft ding. Aaron was already asleep. She crept downstairs, clutching her phone in trembling fingers. Nothing on the porch. Nothing on the live feed. But when she turned to head back up, she saw it. A shape. Not in front of her, but reflected in the hall mirror. A tall figure, standing behind her, head tilted ever so slightly. She spun around. Nothing. Just the cold press of old air. The next morning, Lyra was unusually quiet. She wouldn't eat. Wouldn't play. Mila asked if something was wrong, and her daughter whispered, "He says I shouldn't tell you his name, or he'll go away forever. And I don't want him to go." Mila's stomach dropped. She knelt beside her daughter. "Who, sweetie?" Lyra looked past her, into the empty hallway. The man with the sad smile. The Tavaris decided to do some digging. Mila visited the local historical society and found blueprints and records of their home. What she discovered chilled her more than she expected. The house had once belonged to the Reuthen family, who lived there until 1949. The father, Elias Reuthen, had gone missing one autumn evening, never to be found. His wife had claimed he simply stepped outside to get firewood and vanished. No foul play was suspected at the time. But what struck Mila most was the photo attached to the archive. Elias. Shoulder-length black hair. Wool coat. Gentle smile. The same man. The one from the doorbell footage. Mila printed the photo and brought it home. She showed it to Lyra casually, slipping it between some drawings. Lyra stopped, tapped the picture, and beamed. "That's him," she said. "That's my tall friend." Aaron, now visibly shaken, insisted they reach out to someone. A paranormal expert. A priest. Anyone. But Mila was conflicted. This wasn't just fear anymore. It was sadness. Every time Elias appeared, he didn't seem angry. Just present. Watching. Smiling. Waiting. As if he wasn't there to hurt them. As if he needed something. Or someone. They installed a second camera facing the porch from a different angle. For days, nothing happened. Then one night, around 3:13 a.m., both cameras recorded at the exact same moment. Elias, if that was really him, stood there, still smiling. But this time there was someone else. A blur beside him. Smaller. A figure that flickered in and out like a broken projection. When slowed down, it resembled a young boy. And for the first time, Elias wasn't looking at the camera. He was looking at the boy. The next morning, Lyra asked Mila a question she couldn't shake. "Mom, can people lose their children forever?" Mila knelt down. "Why do you ask that, baby?" Lyra's eyes shimmered with empathy far beyond her years. "Because he's looking for his son. But he can't find him. He says he needs help." That was the turning point. Mila stopped seeing Elias as a threat. He was a father trapped between time and silence. A soul anchored to the threshold of their home. And Lyra, innocent and open, had become his last hope. Aaron, still skeptical, agreed to let Mila try something, if it meant finding peace for their daughter and for themselves. Mila returned to the archives and pulled records of Elias Reuthen's son, Thomlin, a child of 9 who died tragically in 1948 after falling through the attic floor. His body had been discovered days later, but the trauma fractured the family. Elias, consumed with guilt, reportedly spiraled into a silent depression. What no one knew was that he had never truly accepted his son's death. He believed Thomlin had hidden somewhere, that he would return. The final entry from Elias's personal notebook simply read, "The bell. He'll come if he hears the bell." Mila stared at the sentence for a long time. Could it be literal? That night, as the wind howled outside, Mila stood on the porch and rang the doorbell. Just once. Aaron watched from inside. Lyra stood at the living room window, fingers pressed to the glass. The moment the chime rang, the air shifted. It wasn't cold. It was full, like something long empty had been filled. The camera captured it again, Elias, standing beside the boy, finally looking at him. Reaching out, Lyra gasped softly. He found him. The footage flickered, then cleared, and for the first time in weeks, the house fell completely silent. The next few days were peaceful. Lyra slept through the night. No more footsteps. No whispers. No smiles in the dark. The cameras picked up nothing. Mila felt lighter, as if a breath held for too long had finally been released. But on the 7th day, the camera pinged again. Motion detected, front door. Mila's heart skipped. She hesitated to look, afraid of what she might see. But curiosity won. She tapped the feed. No Elias. No Thomlin. Just a woman. Older, in her 70s. She looked familiar, but Mila couldn't place her. The woman walked up to the porch and placed a small item in the mailbox. Then she stepped back, smiled at the camera with tears in her eyes, and whispered something, too faint to catch. When Mila checked the mailbox, she found an envelope. Inside was an old photo of Elias holding baby Thomlin. On the back, "Thank you. S.M." Mila found out later that week from a local librarian that Sylvia Mira, née Reuthen, Elias's great-granddaughter, still lived in Windmere Hollow. She had always believed the stories. Always hoped someone would help Elias move on. She had been watching the house, hoping. Mila never contacted Sylvia. She didn't need to. Some things were better left in peace. What mattered was the silence. The clarity. The comfort of knowing their home was no longer weighed down by unspoken grief. One evening, Lyra drew a picture and handed it to her mother. It showed 3 figures holding hands in front of a house. "Who's that, sweetie?" Mila asked. Lyra smiled. "That's Elias. That's his boy. And that's the house. They're together now." Mila framed it, hung it near the front door. As weeks passed, life settled into something beautiful. Aaron laughed more. Lyra sang again. And Mila she watched. Just in case. Months later, another family moved into the neighborhood. A young couple with a baby girl. They visited the Tavaris for dinner one night and admired their old home. "Any ghost stories?" the wife joked. Mila smiled gently. "Just one. But it had a happy ending." That night, she looked through old footage one last time. One clip remained. The final one. Elias turning to face the camera. His smile wider now. Grateful. A whisper just barely audible beneath the static. He heard the bell. And then nothing. Word spread slowly about the Tavari house, but not in the way ghost stories usually do. There were no rumors of haunting or horror. Only curiosity. A warmth. Children sometimes stopped on the sidewalk to look at the porch, as if expecting something magical. And sometimes, if the wind was just right, the doorbell would chime by itself, softly. Like a memory. Mila began writing about the experience, anonymously at first. Her stories found their way to forums, podcasts, even short film adaptations. People connected with the idea of closure, of helping what was left behind to move forward. It wasn't just about ghosts, it was about healing. Letting go. Lyra continued to grow, and with each year, her drawings changed. Brighter. Safer. No more shadows. And though the house still creaked at night, it no longer felt haunted. It felt alive, like the walls themselves had exhaled a century of pain. And for the Tavari family, that was more than enough. Sometimes all it takes to free someone is to answer the bell, even if you don't know who's ringing. And then, years later, on the anniversary of their move-in date, the doorbell rang again. Mila, older now, graying at the temples, opened the door with a soft smile. A teenage girl stood there. "Hi," she said. "This might sound strange, but did anything weird ever happen in this house?" Mila looked past her, into the twilight. "Why do you ask?" The girl bit her lip. "Because I think someone's trying to tell me something. I live in the house next door. And last night, our camera caught a little boy smiling at the fence. And then, he waved." Mila's breath caught for just a moment. Then she smiled. Warm. Peaceful. "Come in," she said. "I'll tell you a story." And in the soft glow of the living room light, as the evening faded into stars, a new chapter began. Because some echoes aren't meant to scare us. Some echoes are just waiting to be heard. The teenage girl stepped into the old house, her eyes wide as they scanned the framed photos on the wall, the worn floorboards, the soft hum of something unseen but kind. Mila poured 2 cups of tea, her hands steady despite the rush of old memories. She spoke gently, unraveling the tale of Elias and Thomlin, the strange footage, the ringing bell, and the healing that followed. The girl listened, silent but transfixed. When Mila finished, the girl reached into her bag and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "He drew this on my window," she said. The sketch was childlike, 2 stick figures holding hands. One wore a wool coat. Mila's eyes welled, not from fear, but from the quiet beauty of it all. The echoes, it seemed, hadn't vanished. They'd simply moved on to where they were needed next. The next morning, the Tavari house stood bathed in morning gold, the porch still, the swing drifting lightly in the breeze. Lyra, now grown, would soon return to visit with her own family. The house waited, like a heart full of stories, ready to whisper again if called upon. And somewhere in the quiet corners of Windmere Hollow, laughter echoed faintly, familiar, eternal, free. And so, the echoes of the past fade into peace, but the stories live on, waiting to be heard. If you found this journey moving, if the whispers of Windmere Hollow touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and share this tale with those who might need it. Subscribe for more stories that stir the soul, and join us next time as we uncover the mysteries that lie hidden just beyond the door.